at the end of the day, what you want to do, I think, is feel confident. I want to feel confident when I have a job that I can do it consistently and I can do it well, and I can go to that morbid idea of my deathbed and say, wow, I had an incredible run. I had a body of work. I told a lot of great stories and I did it well.
If you got something, let it rip.
I'm never going to do this again.
Everybody grapples with this idea that you're really a fraud.
Like, I'm alive.
And that's when it clicked with me. And I thought, these are not superheroes. These are just men that can do super things.
This is Matt Del Negro, and you are listening to the new stripped down 10,000 No's. All right, today we've got Terry Knickerbocker. He is considered New York's top acting coach, and normally I riff about the guest as the intro. Today I want to read something to you, so if you're watching on YouTube and you see me reading, get over it. Terry Knickerbocker is founder and studio director of the Terry Knickerbocker Studio, the renowned New York City-based acting school. He teaches the Meisner technique and is part of a direct lineage of Sanford Meisner, having spent over 30 years training and teaching with William Esper, one of Sandy's most respected proteges. Terry has coached such well-known actors as Austin Butler, Josh Charles, Sacha Baron Cohen, Daniel Craig, Zac Efron, Boyd Holbrook, John Leguizamo, Natasha Lyonne, Chris Messina, Sam Rockwell, Emmy Rossum, Brian Michael Smith, Journey Smollett, Michelle Williams, and Yul Vasquez. Terry has coached actors on performances that earned an Academy Award, Golden Globe Awards, and Screen Actors Guild Awards. So, pretty impressive pedigree. I just wanted you to hear it just so you knew who it is that you're hearing from. This is someone who is coaching the best of the best, and also, as you'll hear, has a summer intensive program, has a 2-year program. I spoke to Terry on the podcast prior to COVID, the pandemic. So this interview, Terry was kind enough to come speak to the 10,000 No's Insiders Community. I hope you enjoy it. Here he is, Terry Knickerbocker.
What we do here is go back.
As I was reminded and listening to our conversation from a couple of years ago, you're just so into the work from like the basic building blocks of being an actor. And that's something that I think we can talk about today. It can really go anywhere. We'll open it up to questions from people in the group later, but I'm curious to hear where you are, after you and I spoke. COVID hit, and it was like this big shift. And I, remember seeing, I'm on your email list and seeing that you really pivoted. Because in the beginning, I think everybody was freaked out, and certainly you must have been, because you have this studio that's thriving and everybody would come in person. That's where we did the interview the last time in Brooklyn. And it was like, everything's done, but you seemed to pivot very nicely to online, and I'm imagining now you have in person, but have you retained some of that Zoom stuff too? Or where are you right now?
Thanks, Matt, and hi everybody. Nice to see you all. Thanks for spending some time. Are you all actors? It's crazy that it's been 4 years since that COVID thing, and I remember that week in March very well. God, I think it was the 12th. The 12th of March was a Friday, maybe the 13th was a Saturday. That week, professional sports shut down, Broadway theaters shut down. My son, who was in first grade at the time, New York City public schools shut down. Like all this stuff just stopped. And I was wearing gloves on the subway, rubber gloves, because I thought that was the word. That's how you got rid of COVID. It was like, don't touch stuff. And I was frightened and pissed off. And I really thought we were going to have to shut down because, and that I was going to have to sell my house because, like I have a mortgage and stuff like that. And I used to teach at NYU acting. I taught acting at NYU for a long time. And I went over on that Thursday to go see what was happening, because I'd heard that they had said, and you probably also remember back then, they just kept moving the goal line. Like they said, it'll be another week, right? So NYU was going on spring break. We were going on spring break. I had tickets to Mexico that was supposed to leave that Saturday. And then I canceled those on the Thursday night because I was there like, what if I get stuck there? Which people were doing. They weren't letting them back in. And I went over to NYU and it was a ghost town. No one was there. Because a lot of parents had said, come home. There was a whole lot of, because New York was a hotbed of the virus at that time. They said, like, get out. But I saw my former boss, who was very jolly. And I was like, what's going on? And we did like an elbow bump, because that didn't want to get my gloves. And I said, what's going on? Because NYU had said to all their teachers across NYU, we're talking about chemistry, English, history, ballet, acting. We're going online for 1 week after vacation. And if you don't teach online, you don't have a job, right? Like that was what they were doing. And I was so pissed off and bewildered because I thought, how do you teach an embodied art form that involves touch and intimacy this way, right? And Rosemary Quinn, who was my boss, I said, what are you thinking about all this? She said, well, everybody's on board except one kind of old-fashioned teacher who said she's not going to do it, so she's quitting. Everyone else is on board. And who else can solve this but us? Because at the heart of what we do is improvisation, and use that word pivot, which became the word back then. Like when Dyson, who makes vacuum cleaners, all of a sudden started making air purifiers. Like that was a really interesting pivot, but it was very necessary, right? So that was that ability to be nimble. She said, who else but us can do it? Because at the heart and soul of what we do is improvisation. So we're being asked to improvise. Then that Saturday, I'm a member of this sort of elite organization called the National Alliance of Acting Teachers, which you have to be invited to be in. And there's maybe 80 of us across the country. And we were having like an emergency powwow on Zoom. So 70 people on a Zoom call going, what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And some people were going like, I think it's possible. And other people, this guy, Peter J. Fernandez, who teaches at Columbia in the grad school, was going, absolutely not, which is how I felt. No way. I mean, maybe you can do table work. Maybe, some of the things that actors do, like you can do a table reading or something, but how am I going to work on blocking and touch and all the intimate stuff? And this other woman who teaches at Vassar was going, no, Peter, you're wrong. And there's 70 of us in the room and they start to go at it, right? And really go at it on Zoom. Right? No way. And all of a sudden, collectively, the penny dropped for all of us to go, oh, this is it. They're working moment to moment. They're fully in their bodies. They're having this rich conflict. It feels real. I go, oh, okay, there'll be hope there. And then, I mean, half my students had left. Their parents had said, come home to California, come home to Kansas, right? And they were scared because they had babysitting jobs, they had bartending jobs, they had restaurant jobs. They had no jobs. So there were, I decided it could be done, but then not everyone was on board. So I called every single one of my students. I had 100 students. And said, I don't know if this is going to work. The motto of my studio is training the passionate actor committed to excellence. So I said, I don't want to babysit you. If we can't do this in a way that's excellent, then we won't do it. But why don't we try? So I invited them to come back and try it. And 99 of them came back. And the one who didn't had 4 kids. Maybe you can relate to this, Matt. And 3 of them had special needs, and there was going to be no school. She couldn't even go to the bathroom by herself. There was no way she could take an acting class online with 4 kids running around. So she had to step out. But 99 of them did it. And for a while, I mean, we had to figure out how do you do I don't know if you guys know about the Meisner work, but like we're supposed to be in a shared space, so like, how do we work out creating the idea of a shared space when you're in California and I'm in Iowa? So we'd work out things like there's supposed to be a knock on the door. So I'd go, can you hear that?
I can't even hear that now.
I go so I go knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
And then go, I'm opening the door. And then the person would, like appear or whatever. Yeah. So we had to figure out how to do the Meisner work, but we figured it out. It was a little bit weird. It's better in person. when we came back in person, we wore masks for a year. That kissing's weird with masks, but we figured it out and it was fun, you
Yeah.
know?
And
Yeah.
how have you come? Yeah, I do remember. I think you reached out to me because I had turned the podcast from being
Yeah,
live
yeah,
into doing Zooms. And I think
yeah.
my response to you was, well, in some weird ways, it I had always been wondering, how do I get video on the podcast so that I could do clips? And all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, here we have Zooms now. So there's video. People
Yeah.
don't have to, there's obviously there are pros and cons where people don't have to travel to you. You don't have to travel to people. So
Yeah.
it's easier, it's less time consuming. On the other hand, you're not in the same room and there's something that's lost, which is very much related to what everybody says about self-tapes, which is, I've kind of given over to those and actually really embraced them. I'm curious about where you've kind of come out on the other side now. I'm imagining it sounds like you have a building full of students. So now that people are back, what have you learned from that whole period of time? If anything, about acting?
That if you really want to do it, you'll figure out a way. And that we need stories. They're not going to replace us with AI. I mean, maybe Game of Thrones, if they need 1,000 people in a scene, they'll do all that. But like, we need live bodies in rooms, and that it's exciting to do. And it's funny, I was coaching with Austin Butler last night on a new film by that guy Ari, who wrote Midsommar and directed it. Really wonderful, Scandinavian director. And it's a new project that Austin's in. I'm going to name drop now, not to show off, but just to kind of share the legitimacy of this. So Joaquin Phoenix is in it, Emma Stone, Pedro Pascal, and Austin. And the name of the film, I can't remember the name of the film, but the subtitle is A COVID-19 Western. So it actually takes place in 2020 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it's all about the people who wouldn't wear masks, the people who would wear masks. It's about conspiracy theories. It's a very, very topical thing. And it's exciting to work on. And so there's a lot of stories, and we were changed by that. And, I still have students who wear masks in class, because that's how they feel comfortable. I wear a mask on the subway, but not in my class, and I'm definitely vaccinated. And I had students who didn't want to get vaccinated. We had a vaccination rule, so then they either opted in or they opted out. So it's taught me that everybody has a story, and you have to give them some grace to be who they are. And at the same time, there's something we want to do together. And if you really care about telling stories and telling stories well, then we can work together. And I think that's what my professional clients want to do. They, no one gives Sam Rockwell a contract that says, if you want to be in this movie, you have to have a coach. He does it because you invest in yourself, and you invest in yourself because that helps you to do it better. Plus, there's no rehearsal in film and television, so you got to show up ready. So I think I've learned that, in a way, nothing's changed. Like, I'm not coaching any differently, except I was doing online coaching before. I did 9 seasons of Shameless with Emmy Rossum because she was in LA and I was in New York, and that's where it was happening. So we did it on Skype. Not too many people use Skype anymore, but it was the same. And that it's fun to do this and do it well, and the Meisner work really works. And students love to do it. People love stories, and people love to learn how to do it well. So in a way, nothing's changed.
I would love for you to kind of, I don't know if anybody in this particular group is still even entertaining, doing like getting an MFA, doing like a 3-year program, or maybe even a 2-year program. But I know from kind of listening back to our conversation, and also from that Esper book, one of the things you said when you went and studied with Bill was you were like, I think cast in a couple of plays, and you said, well, I can't be here Tuesday. I can be here whatever it was. And he said, well, no, you're not, that's not how it works. Like, you're going to do this. We're going back to the basics. We're going to be learning the scales before you're playing Beethoven, was essentially the thought process. Was you're going to be, I think he did a 2-year program, and I believe you have a 2-year program at your school.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk to us a little bit about what your advice would be to actors that might be in a point of their life when they can't necessarily go to school, like to a conservatory for, like, that's all they do. They're not 20 years old anymore. Some of them have families. They have just life situations. What would your advice be in that kind of, between the philosophies of like, oh, just be out there auditioning and working versus going back and working on the craft? How would you kind of steer someone in that situation?
Well, we could talk for hours about that. I would say for people to ask themselves what their goals are. I'm going to get really a little provocative here. And sometimes I do it by saying, okay, let's imagine it's the last day of your life. And all your friends and family are around you, and you've lived hopefully a long time. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to have said about you? You have someone who's a Wall Street broker, but they really want to be a poet, right? But like, what do you want? What are your goals? What's going to make a worthy life for you? Something that you'll be proud of at the end of your life, and then arrange for that. And nothing can't be organized. That's a double negative, but you can organize what you need to organize, right? There may be some sacrifice involved. I'm not talking about going on welfare, but if you truly, truly want something, you'll arrange for it. So if acting is the thing that lights you up, there's no other happy place for you but acting. And when you're acting, it's like it's your zone of genius. It's what you feel is the only thing you want to do, and that makes you feel whole and special and alive. And by the way, it's so meaningful for the world, right? Like, it's not a selfish thing, and it's not a silly thing, because when people see meaningful work, their lives are changed. They're enhanced. Why? Because they're seeing themselves represented on screen. They're saying, oh, someone understands my story. So I think it's a powerfully profound thing to do. And I think it's an exciting thing to do. If that lights you up, then you take inventory and go, what kind of actor do I want to be? Because you can have work now and never take a class, just get a lot of followers. Netflix will hire people for projects based on followers. So if your idea of success is that you're a working actor, meaning you get your paycheck from SAG-AFTRA instead of getting it from Starbucks, you don't need training. Just figure out how to do self-tapes, figure out how to network, pay someone to get you a lot of followers, and you will have jobs. The work won't be any good necessarily, or maybe it'll be hit or miss. That's why I sought out Bill. I came to Bill after graduating from NYU. I already went to a 4-year program. And I was out there working, and my work was inconsistent, right? And maybe I said in our conversation, imagine a dentist who, like, you go to see him, and like on Tuesdays, he's there like, what's a drill? Right? Like, I didn't want to be that kind of actor who sometimes knew what he was doing and sometimes didn't. And I know a lot of actors who would say that. Like, sometimes, like, you could be an actor in high school and never take a lesson. You couldn't be in the orchestra and never take a lesson. You want to play trombone in the high school orchestra, you got to take some trombone lessons. But pretty much everyone who's in the high school play didn't take acting lessons. They have this innate love of storytelling, and they like to do stuff, and they want to be in it. And sometimes they're good. Right? You can be good. That's why child actors are interesting. Not child actors who went to stage door manor with stage parents who, like, I want my kid to be an actor, but just like I want to be in a play, and they discover them, you know, like that wonderful girl in Beasts of the Southern Wild, if you saw that. Like, she wasn't a trained actor, and she was amazing. Got an Academy Award nomination. But then that's where the rubber meets the road, because now if she wants a career, she's got to learn what to do, how to do it, right? So I went to Bill Esper because I couldn't make my work consistent. And my goal was to be consistent. I wanted to feel confident every time a director said action, every time the curtain went up. I wanted to do really good work and be like my heroes, right? Which back then were like Pacino and De Niro and Diane Keaton and Meryl Streep. Like, those people, just like, I don't want to be a star necessarily. I'll take it if that happens, but I want to do solid work that I'm proud of all the time. And so that's where training comes in. So you have to be really clear about your goals, and then be ruthless about them. And where there's a will, there's a way, right? And you can organize stuff, whether that means moving into a smaller apartment or who knows what. Like, it can all work out if you really want it to work out. I had a girl, single mom from Chicago, Black girl from Chicago, single mom, had no money, wanted to come here, did a GoFundMe, and just said, send her to acting school in New York, and just like pitched it and pitched it and pitched it and got all the money.
Wow.
Right.
That's awesome.
So, you know, I don't really buy into, I'm not 20, so I can't do it. I also don't think you need an MFA. An MFA is a backup plan. Nobody cares whether you have a degree. So people say, I want a degree. They're saying, in case the acting thing doesn't work out, I want to teach. And so I'll need an MFA. That's a backup plan. Forget about that. Right? And nobody wants to go to acting school. Who wants to go to acting school? I don't want to go to acting school. I want to work. But if my work isn't right, I need to figure out how to get my work right. And that's where a good program makes sense.
So you do what? A 2-year program?
I do.
And then you also do like a summer thing, like a summer intensive? Yeah. What's the difference in those? What's the big difference?
Well, you know, Sam Rockwell and Yul Vasquez, by the way, if you guys know Yul.
Yeah, we had Yul, people that came to an event that I did. Yul was our VIP. I just worked with him in May. He's great.
He's a total VIP. So Yul was a rock star, an actual music rock star. He had records and long hair and all that. He had a band called Diving for Pearls. And someone, because he's a really handsome guy, said, you know, you should try acting, and gave him Bill Esper's name. And that was the summer Sam did. That's where Sam met Yul, was in Bill Esper's summer intensive. And they were just going to do the summer, just get a little, like, you know, vitamin shot of some acting stuff. Sam was already working actor. He'd already done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He was doing commercials. Both his parents were actors. He'd grown up as an actor. You know, he was already on his way. And so the summer intensive is the overall Meisner training is 128 classes over 2 years. The summer intensive is 18. So it's a little over 10%. Yeah, like 14% of the overall training. So you can't do the summer intensive and say, now I know what I'm doing, if you want to learn the entire soup to nuts craft. It's a very rich taste of the work that could be a reminder if you're already out there working and you know how to act. Like William Hurt came and did it way into his career because he just wanted to go back to the bar, and like just go back to the beginning and remind himself of that. He already knew how to act. Jennifer Beals, who'd graduated from Yale, came and did the summer intensive and then decided to do the 2-year. And that's what happened for Yul and Sam. They kind of went, oh, this is showing me that this work is really helpful. I want to really do it. Now, for some people, someone who's in college, they're just going to come between second and third year of college and then go back to college. Jonathan Majors did that with me. He was at North Carolina and came to between his sophomore and junior year just to get some stuff, and then went back there and then ultimately went to Yale. So it could be for that person. It could be for the acting curious or the training curious, because we go back to the beginning. And that idea of fundamentals is something that I don't think any other approach to acting does except the Meisner work, right? That we go back to scales, what you mentioned earlier. But ultimately, again, you have to take inventory. Where am I? Like, if you already know how to act, don't come to my school. Go out and do it, and hire me as a coach. I'm very expensive, but fun. We'll get the work done. But if you take honest inventory and go, what's going on? Like, what can I do that I'm good at, and what am I challenged with? And then what's going to support that? And I don't think learning how to do self-tapes is going to support you becoming a better actor, because self-tapes is just a skill. It's a weird thing we do to get jobs. The question is, and you should get good at self-tapes. That's a skill you can get good at. So do that. But at the end of the day, what you want to do, I think, is feel confident. I want to feel confident when I have a job, that I can do it consistently and I can do it well, and I can go to that morbid idea of my deathbed and say, wow, I had an incredible run. I had a body of work. I told a lot of great stories and I did it well. Right? Like, if you're a chef, if you're a pizza chef and your pizzas are go to Italy, learn how to make pizzas and then come back. So the main thing I think is the 2-year program, which to me is amazing, because you can't become a concert pianist in 2 years. You can't become a ballet dancer in 2 years, but you can actually learn the craft of acting start to finish in 2 years in this approach, which is like wonderful. Why? Because we already have some innate humanity that we already know. We already love stories. Every culture has stories in it. And we're also mimetic creatures. That's how kids learn. They sort of, like, right now, my daughter, I have a 2-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. And my daughter is doing all the stuff her mom does. Like, she's still breastfeeding, too much information. So now she has a bottle and she feeds Elmo. So she's already practicing, because we're mimetic creatures. We look at people and that's how we learn. That's how we learn to do stuff. So we already have some of the stuff built in for acting. Now we just need to learn to do it when the acting gods don't smile on us, and that's what training's for.
Yeah. I love,
Yeah.
I love that answer. And, that's what I took from listening to us talk. From, what's crazy is you're saying your son is 10, because I think you said in that interview your son was 4. I can't believe that was 6
They
years.
grow up.
That's
Great.
crazy. I didn't realize it was that long ago. But that was the takeaway from that, and from the Bill Esper book. And then I'm listening to the Method book right now. And, you just think of, I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it kind of goes through it's more like the history of it. It just made me respect all of the different, like, through all of this time, everyone's kind of searching for the same thing, but there are different opinions on how to get there. And so it's really fascinating to hear how, the group theater then split off, because, Lee Strasberg was into the emotions, and Bobby Lewis says, no, what are you talking about? It's more style. And just kind of hearing I guess the overall takeaway as I'm listening to that book is like, man, I'm never going to run out of things to learn, and I can always be better. And someone else has kind of, someone has tried all of these different things. And so there's always more. I don't know. It's just a humbling kind of thing to hear, where we're coming from, and like how much more we can kind of, like, if we say like, oh yeah, I got it. It's kind of like, well, yeah, you do, something, but you can still learn. Or like you said, you could be Sam, who's an incredible actor, but he still benefits from coming to you for coaching. It's outside eyes.
But that's different, right? I do think, Matt, I do make a distinction between someone who really knows what they're doing, and then the coaching is just, yes, hopefully you're going to keep growing. I mean, to me, artistic death would be being a series regular on a show for 25 years and not doing anything else. Like, I just don't get that. Like, some of the fun of acting, I mean, you got a paycheck, and you're doing good service. But like the fun of acting is you get to be all these different people and have the challenge again. Like Sam and I are working on this movie now that he's going to do with Gore Verbinski in South Africa in a couple months, with like Juno Temple and Michael Pena and a couple of really, cool people. And it's a beast of a script. It's really hard, and we keep coming at it from different angles because we haven't quite cracked the code of it. And that's kind of the fun of like getting to be, once we go, I got been there, done that, like what's the point? Just put me in the ground, right? But I do make a distinction. So yes, we're always lifelong learners. I'm a learner. I'm still learning stuff. I'm definitely learning about how to be a parent still. And I know you understand that.
Yeah.
But there is something about, well, if I want to be an architect, I should go to architecture school. And if I want to be an actor, because I love it, I want to be able to do it well. Let me put myself in training mode. And to me, that's a different mode than, okay, now because Meisner would say, yeah, it takes 2 years to learn how to act and 20 years to master it. That's like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. So I do make a distinction, and those are two different sides of my professional life. And I'm not, when Daniel Craig comes to me to work on, Knives Out 2 and Knives Out 3, which we're about to start working on, he's not saying, teach me how to act.
Right.
He's saying, help me put this performance together, and we're working in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, they're two different things. I mean, I agree. When you're working with someone on a specific project, I think you're giving them another set of eyes. You're giving them another, maybe some ideas, maybe you're someone to bounce things off of.
Yeah, we're jamming, right?
Yeah, they're not reinventing the wheel, but I love you gave a story and last time we talked about Sam with Green Mile and how you had heard some musician that I don't know if he's a Creole musician, I forget what, a Cajun.
He was an Appalachian banjo player named Roscoe Holcomb, and played real old-timey Appalachian banjo music on like the Smithsonian Folkways. Like he's not on the Apple charts, but I was listening to that music, and Sam was looking for a way in, and he was in my kitchen. I used to live in East Village, and he had a line in the movie that was going to say, "Hey, fuckstick," and Sam loves to dance. If you study his career, he loves to dance. He loves to move, and so sometimes that's the way in. And I just said, I don't know, Sam, just like start to dance this music, and I played it, and then he started to say the line, "Hey, fuckstick," while he was dancing to that, and that became a way. Sometimes you just need like one moment that sort of I know you know this, that kind of cracks the whole thing open for you. But I have had famous people come to me who don't know how to act, and that's tricky. Because I had this guy known for comedy, and he came to me, and it was a serious project, and in the scenes he has to cry a lot, and he goes, "Well, how do I do that?" I'm like, "Oh shit, man." Because this guy's not going to stop his career to go to acting school. So I had to propose a little bit of a quick tutorial.
If you're up for it, I would love to open up the room to people.
Yeah, look at all these people.
I'm going to take the
very attractive people.
I'm going to take the
with all kinds of hair except for Tom.
Don't pick on Tom. He's new. All right. Once again, thank you to Terry Knickerbocker. We cut you off before the Q&A. If you are interested in getting access to someone like Terry, like you heard today, and being involved in a Q&A so you can actually ask questions that apply directly to you, check out the link for 10,000 NOs Insiders Community, or go to 10,000nos.com and look for Insiders Community. It's easy to sign up. There's a little video there with me explaining what it is. Essentially, you meet on a Zoom with me and the other members once a week, every Monday, unless I'm shooting somewhere and we pivot. You also have access to a private members-only Facebook group, so you can collaborate with other members who are all over, not just the country, but some in Canada, some in the UK. So that's kind of a cool opportunity. And then once a month, we bring someone like Terry in as a VIP. So check that out if you're interested. Also, just go to 10,000nos.com if you're interested in anything else that we do. We put on these Let's Shoot the Rehearsal on camera weekend retreats in New York City every few months. Not sure when the next one is, but follow me on Instagram at Matty Dell. I'll make announcements when we know when that is coming. Anything else you want to check out. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. If you dig it, please leave us a nice review, share it with your friends, share it on social media, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.